What is up, everybody? This is Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. Just sitting out here chilling, still waiting for my load to get ready. Have all this time to think about some stuff. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was what I thought was the most underutilized backing technique in trucking. And if you're an old school trucker, or you've been trucking for a while, this may not apply to you. But I don't see this technique being used by a lot of new drivers, and I really don't see it being used by a lot of drivers in general. But the back I want to talk about now is the U-turn back. Now, I'm not one of these fancy guys that has drones and all this kind of stuff, and you know, I do have a GoPro that I could put up on my head, but I still haven't figured out how to edit that video. So hopefully if I talk about this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Hopefully it's something that you can apply to your backing repertoire. But this is a back that I never really saw my trainer use. It's something that I tried to pass on to the two trainees that I had. But essentially, it's why I think this back is so valuable is it allows you to set up from the blind side and actually set up easier than if it was a right side back. Now, if you guys are brand new to trucking or haven't been out here, maybe this isn't making sense, but once you get out there, maybe it may make sense. But if you're going to do a traditional back, let's say you're at a truck stop or a shipper receiver, you might do a traditional back where you pull up where the spot that you're going to pull up is going to be on your left-hand side. You'll pull up to maybe a spot past the spot that you're trying to back into, make kind of a little right, go up a little ways, kind of turn left, pull forward, and then once you pull forward, you're going to kind of back into that spot on your left. Now, this U-turn back is a little bit different. You're going to kind of pull in, unless your spot's not going to be on your left-hand side, it's going to be on your right-hand side. So you're pulling in, so I see the spot that I'm going to want to get to that's on my right-hand side. I'll pull maybe a spot and a half past that spot. I'll make a hard left and I'll U-turn, and then as I U-turn, I'll pull forward until I see my trailer get maybe about a spot and a half in front of the spot I want to get into. So I can actually see my trailer a whole lot better than if I was going to do a traditional back. Now, the reason I think this back is so valuable, first of all, I saw a fight over this at a truck stop when I was in Nashville. There was a truck driver that was trying to do a back he couldn't get into. He was actually trying to do a pull through when I just backed into this spot, maybe, or into a spot right next to where he was pulling into about 30 minutes earlier, and I used this technique. Rather than that, he tried to do a pull through, couldn't get his trailer to clear, and he tried to circle around. In the meantime, another driver came through the same way I did, saw the spot on his blind side, made the U-turn, backed into it. As he was backing in, the driver that left that spot that couldn't get into it came back around and got pissed off at him for stealing his spot. So that's usually not going to be the case. You're not going to be seeing people fight over that. You can't call dibs on a parking spot at a truck stop. But there's a lot of times that I see people that are saying they had the blind side that really didn't need the blind side. They could have used this technique to get into their spot. I just think of all the backing techniques that I've learned in trucking, that one is probably the most valuable because it's so versatile. You know, I even think that, and I just did it the other day, I just did it yesterday when I pulled into this spot at this shipper. I could have came through. It was one of those where I could have looped around because they had, like, you could have either made the right in, or no, what was that? You could have either, yeah, you could have either made the right in and then done the U-turn back, or you could have gone all the way around this group of trailers and came back around and did a right side back. And provided there's enough room for me to make that U-turn, I just think that the U-turn back is more valuable than any of them, because once I make that U-turn and I pull up, I can actually see my trailer a whole lot better than if I was just to come in and do the normal setup and then back in from there. Plus, the spacing is almost exact. Like, once you make that U-turn, the spacing that you need is like exactly right there. Now, if you're shallow up to the front and you can't make that U-turn, this doesn't apply. But if you do have that space, that is a U-turn that I think that you should try to perfect. Now, I didn't come up with this, obviously, on my own. I saw people do it when I was in training and stuff like that, even though my trainer didn't do it. But where I really learned it from was a YouTube channel called My Trucking Skills. So if you happen to be new, the best thing that you can do is add more backing techniques to your repertoire. And the way that I've been able to do that, and I'm not perfect by any means, I'm not saying that, anything like that, is My Backing Skills is a truck driver that has a YouTube channel. He works for May Company, and he has a bunch of different videos on how to set up for a bunch of different backs, and that is where I learned this technique from. One of the things that I was telling my trainees when I was training them is, if you're at a truck stop, it's easy to sit back there and go to sleep. One thing I still do to this day, if I pull into a truck stop, I'm going to sit out and kind of see how different people approach different backs, things like that. I'm really trying to perfect the art of backing. So that could be looking at other people back at shippers, receivers. And I'm not saying I spend the whole time out there. I'm just saying that I'll sit out there for at least a good 15, 20 minutes, see who's backing in, how they do it, how they approach it. You know, if backing is one of the hardest things in trucking, I'm trying to make my job as easy as possible. So I will try to learn as many different techniques as I can. And the more ways you learn how to back, the easier this job becomes. And I think a lot of people try to just approach everything the same way. I did it myself when I was brand new. To me, everything was a 90-degree back or an offset back, or whatever you learned in school. You know, once you get past that and you really start learning different subtleties of backing and things like that, that's when the job becomes easy. The job becomes easy when you really take this shit serious and learn different ways to make your job easier. It becomes hard when you try to force everything into being a 45-degree back, a 90-degree back, a straight back, an offset, all that kind of stuff. So to answer the question, the most valuable thing I've learned in trucking was how to perform that U-turn back. And it maybe took me about 5 times to perfect it, because when I first did it, I thought it kind of looked right, but then when I backed up, my trailer was jackknifing too much. So I was like, okay, well, I just need to pull forward and pull forward. And once I kind of understood how far I needed to pull forward to make that trailer just go perfectly in that spot, the easier it became. And maybe one of these days my editing techniques, or maybe I'll have different ways to like actually show this, or I might have somebody film me. But listen, I don't really like being filmed, because I don't want people to be thinking, man, who does he think he is? You know what I'm saying? So I may never get to that, but just think about this. A U-turn, one spot past where you're trying to back in. You need to make sure you have the space to clear it, and you have to make sure that your trailer is not going to clip a truck that's on your right hand side. But make that U-turn, make the U-turn, pull around, and then pull up forward enough while you're looking at your trailer. Once your trailer gets right by that spot, then you don't even have to go right. Once you pull up, then you just come back on top of the trailer, and it'll go right in. So this may not make sense if you're not into trucking. If you're a truck driver now, this will probably make a little bit of sense if you're not using this back right now. I do know a lot of people are using this, so it's not like I'm like giving out some, You know, I'm not the Illuminati coming up with something that nobody's done, but I don't see this back used enough. And I don't know if it's people don't like using it, they don't understand how to use it, why it is, but I see a lot of people losing out on spots in truck stops that are actually very simple backs. More simple than even hitting it from the right side sometimes. And to be honest with you, what really makes this a great back is typically when it starts getting busy, when all you solar powered truckers are parking at night, a lot of times those spots that aren't being taken are the spots that are naturally on the blind side for that truck stop. So, for example, you could be, the natural flow of the truck stop could be, let's say, one general direction, and then if you go that general direction, all the spots would be right side backs. So there's a bunch of blind side backs that are there. Well, a lot of those blindside spots are open, and they might be two blindside spots next to each other that nobody's taken because most people aren't used to doing that back or whatever it is. I don't know, but those are usually the last spots to be taken. So by having that back, it increases your chances of getting a spot that a lot of people are leaving open because they either don't know how to do this or they're just not going to try to blindside it or whatever anyway, hopefully that made sense. Maybe it did, maybe it did, I don't know, but I don't know. That is what's been the most valuable thing I learned in trucking so far. Now I'm gonna come back here and go to sleep. I have a few hours for this load's getting ready, then I got a few hours before I actually leave on this load. But I do want to thank you for stopping by. No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.